Alright, so now we're doing quite a bit of endgame stuff, and it's 25 big blinds deep, and this can kind of work. I mean, if you're a hyper player, you start off your game with a 25 big blinds deep, and also, a lot of players who play reg speeds and turbos. I mean, endgame is very important. Sometimes people just don't know what to do with certain hands, and they get flustered, and sometimes they feel like they made the wrong play, that was the right play, and sometimes they get a little too nitty, and they just really don't know what to do. So when your opponent is 3-bet shoving very wide, 25 big blinds or less, um, what should you do? So we have three adjustments here, and once again, I'm going to give you some time to think about it. And once again, this is late game, end game stuff, and this is more important than any other aspect of the game because when you make mistakes this late, is going to come up and it's going to bite you in the butt. It's just going to be a situation where too many people make mistakes this deep, and it ends up, costing them the whole entire game. So you work so hard with your pre-flop stuff and your post-flop stuff, and then when it gets to end game, you just fall apart and you cost yourself too many games, and that's revenue out of your pocket. So we have three adjustments here. So if he's 3-betting very wide, what do we do? For starters, tighten up your opening ranges. Um, Once again, going back to a lot of things we did before, and this is a big theme in this PowerPoint, is that you want to tighten out your opening ranges because when he does 3-bet shove with us, we can call more because we have a stronger range. Very simple. Widen your calling ranges. If somebody's 3-betting you very, very wide, you could use, tons of software to help you realize what somebody is doing that with and what ranges you can basically, you know, call down with. So if somebody is 3-bet shoving you like 40% of the time, it's going to be plus EV to make certain calls with hands that you would never even think about calling. And that's where the mathematics play a big, big part. And if you're a hyper player, you need to be very, very equipped with those kind of things. If a turbo and a reg speed, I mean, you still need to know the percentages. And there's tons of software out there that you can even get through HUSitandGo.com that can help you become an expert at that as well. And start limping hands. If somebody is 3-betting you so wide, you don't want to have to like raise a hand like Jack 8 suited or Jack 7 offsuit or Jack 7 suited, and then have to fold it because you just know that it's not good enough to call your whole stack with. So the best case scenario is to be able to limp those kind of hands, realize your equity, and not get in a situation where you're just kind of raising every hand and just folding until you finally hit your big one. Because chances are, that might not happen because you don't really have that much time to make moves here. So when you flat a hand like 10-9 or Jack 8 suited, not only can you handle like a punish with a hand like that when being in position, but also you can see a free flop that hits pretty well post flop, and you don't have to worry about him 3-betting you off your hand. So those three adjustments are very, very important. So when you are shoving 25 big blinds deep very wide, what adjustments are you looking for villain to make? So now I kind of switched it. Now if you're the one being super aggressive, you're the one playing the lag, and you guys constantly, opening his min raise and you're just shoving over the top and he's constantly folding, what exactly are you looking for? Because there are things that you should be looking for. And a few of those things are limping buttons or folding buttons more pre-flop. So it's a situation where let's say your opponent is raising, let's say 70% of his hands in position, right? And you're constantly 3-betting him and he's constantly folding, and he's getting kind of flustered. And then the next hand you see him limp a hand. And then the next hand you see him fold the hand, and then once again he folds the next hand. What is this telling you? What this should be telling you is that he is tightening up his range. So this means that right off the bat, we should not stick with our game plan of just 3-betting very wide, because it's clear to us right there and then that he's tightening up his range and going to be opening up with stronger hands. So he's waiting for us for his big hands to come. Then he's going to open up his small blind, and then when we do 3-bet shove, he's going to call with a way better hand. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we see this happening and not fall into the trap of continuing to 3-bet shove with a weaker range. So when we do see this happening, what should we do? What should be our thought process? And it's pretty simple. when we see him limping stuff and start folding more buttons and not opening as much as he usually was this deep, we want to tighten up our 3-bet shoving ranges towards more value. So it's a situation where if we're good and we're understanding that he is, starting to tighten up his ranges, he's not going to know that we're capable of we're not capable of seeing what he's doing. So when we are capable and we realize right off the bat that okay, he is tightening up his range, we know right away that we can be 3-bet shoving for more value ranges. So that makes it very tricky on our part because for him, what he thinks is that we're just 3-bet shoving very wide still. But now that we know he's adjusting, we could use that to our advantage and we can almost play the metagame, which is basically thinking on a deeper level. So for example, let's say he tightens up and we have ace queen suited, right? So let's see, tightens up and on the 5th hand he finally raises and we have ace queen suited. I think that we should 3-bet shove all in because to him, he still thinks we're shoving 3-bet shoving very wide. But with what we picked up with our adjustment and just watching the game and the overall the game flow in general, we realized that he's tightening up his range. So now we can shove these big hands for value and have him call off with like an ace-8 suited. So when this situation happens, we want to tighten up our 3-bet bluffing ranges and then basically be shoving towards a more value-based range and just become that much harder to play. It seems pretty easy. Once you're in the game, you have to be able to visualize these things and just keep an eye on what your opponent is doing. You don't always need to be thinking about what you're doing, but you want to be thinking about what he's doing as well and kind of be thinking about what he could possibly be doing. And the reason I make this PowerPoint is because if you know all the adjustments and you're always paying attention to the game you're playing, it's going to be so hard to play you because we're constantly adjusting to his adjustments and we're always one step ahead of him, which makes this almost impossible to play. And the best players in the world are the players that do that the fastest and they understand what the adjustments are. With a little bit of creativity, obviously.